I think it was Glasgow Print Studio that really got me into being a full-time artist. I moved to Glasgow in 1998 after doing a degree in design history, and then I moved to Glasgow after that. I ended up doing an etching course, an evening class in etching, and that was it. I moved from screen print to etching and just never looked back. I didn't really think that you could be a full-time artist. It wasn't anything that I ever considered, but I kind of just kept going with it, and once I started I didn't really ever want to do anything else. I just love the quality of line you get with etching. There's something really beautiful and magical about it. It's quite sculptural, and when I saw it for the first time, really, I was just drawn to firstly the mark that you get on the plate itself, but then the way that mark transfers onto the paper is just it's just extremely beautiful and really compelling, and you want to experiment with the different ways you can draw. I use mirror polished copper because it's got this perfect mirror finish to it. It's really beautiful to work with because you can work directly on it, and when you print it you get very little plate tone. If you work with something like steel, then a lot of the ink will sink down into the much more porous surface, which is also amazing, and I do love working with steel, but this copper is so beautiful to work with, and it prints ink in a particularly beautiful way. I love etching because it has this extra texture to it. I think it's partly because you're picking up so many extra marks as you're working on the plate. You've got the drawing that you're making consciously, but unconsciously you're making all these movements. It's picking up every single movement. I find that extra layer just so beautiful, and you don't really get that in any other printmaking medium to the same extent. I love the way it picks up the kind of pressure that you're working with, and I love the history of it. I love that I'm working in a medium that's one of the oldest in terms of print, and every time I make a mark I'm kind of thinking about the history of etching in particular. The Edinburgh Printmakers Entrance Gates was a really amazing commission. It was an open call. It was a beautiful connection between the former use of the building and what it was going to be used for. The rollers and the paper and the presses and these lovely shapes, and trying to create this flow of a repeat that would work as a repeating motif. And then I worked with sculpture and design to create these drawings, which eventually got fabricated into these amazing gates that are still there. A few years after, I worked again with Page Park Architects, creating a pathway between what had previously been blocked up railway arches, a set of two railway arches, so they were slightly offset from each other. And we started right at the beginning of their project to talk about the shape and the experience of walking through. And I started doing drawings around the archway, the movement and the repeated motif of what happens when an arch kind of disappears into another. So it's like walking through the drawings that we kind of collaborated on. Once that had happened, then I went back and started making these etchings based on the finished tunnel and the process of drawing these shapes. This was kind of a concluding part for me. I really wanted to make some etchings about the process of working with the architects and thinking about the development of this tunnel. I've been drawing patterns for so long now that I am very aware that everything, for me, everything I see and experience and enjoy and try to draw is based on a pattern or an underlying structure that is a kind of physical thing in the world. I'm terrible at maths, and I'm not really interested in maths in itself, but I do appreciate that it's the physics of the way everything is made and everything moves that ultimately seems to be what I can't stop drawing. So there's an underpinning connection to everything I do, because there's a repeated element of pattern that seems to always be there, and that's the thing I always end up drawing out, no matter what situation I'm in or what landscape I'm working with. The truth of most patterns in nature is that they're always a little bit off, they're always a little bit unpredictable, they're a little bit organic, and there's lots of different forces working with them or against them that makes them not perfect. And it's that beautiful balance of the rule and the breaking of the rule within it that makes things interesting. You can draw a line and it can be relatively uninteresting, but if there's a little moment of unexpected unevenness within that line, then it becomes alive.